cousin married my controlling ex-boyfriend, spread lies about me, trashed me in their wedding speech, got cut off by her mom, and then tried breaking into my house at night. So, my cousin Julia, 27F, started dating my ex-boyfriend Lewis, 29M, 2 years ago. I, 27F, had been with Lewis for 3 years. We started dating after he graduated, and I was in my second year of college. We stayed together for 3 years and broke up a couple of weeks after my 20th birthday. It was honestly not a good relationship, and I regret the fact that it was my first relationship as an adult. He and I were perfect on paper, but in reality, things were quite different. He was really insecure and controlling and would not let me do anything by myself that I wanted to, like going out with my friends to bars or even talking to my male friends. He was always keeping tabs on me, and any time I did not do things he wanted, he would start manipulating me and gaslighting me into thinking that I was the reason things weren't working and that it was my fault. I was also pretty desperate to keep him around, so I would bend over backward for him, but that still wasn't enough to make him stay. He was the one who dumped me, saying that things were not working out, and then proceeded to block me so I couldn't contact him. I tried really hard to get in touch with him, but after the breakup, he was completely gone. Within 2 months, I heard from people that he had already moved on to his next girlfriend. So, that was a colossal waste of my time, and I really don't like that guy. We had no contact for some time after the breakup, but then when I turned 25, he finally unblocked me and reached out to wish me a happy birthday. I did not respond to him, and I thought it was weird that he was texting me because by then, I had also moved on and was with somebody different. But he still kept texting me even though he did not get a response, so ultimately, I had to block him again. We didn't speak for a couple of months after that. However, just a few months after my birthday, Julia invited me over, and when I went to her house, she told me that she wanted to introduce me to someone. It turned out to be Lewis. Apparently, the reason he had been texting me earlier on my birthday was because he wanted to make things right with me before this. The two of them had met through work, had started dating, and were quite serious about each other. Julia and I had been really close since childhood, so this came as quite a shock to me because she had known that he and I really didn't get along and that he was quite toxic to me. I was very taken aback when I realized the two of them were together, and she told me that she knew I would be uncomfortable, but she wanted me to give it one chance. I really wanted to do that, but it was just too much for me. I wanted to be happy for Julia, but Lewis was somebody who had caused me a lot of pain in the past, and it was my first serious relationship. In middle school and high school, I didn't have anybody except crushes, and he had ruined that for me, so I had a major grudge against him for the way he had treated me. I tried to be as respectful as possible and told Julia that while I really wanted her to be happy, I couldn't process the fact that she was with Lewis now, and I didn't think I could continue being a part of her life anymore. She was really upset about it and tried to talk to me several times after that, but I couldn't accept it because, of all people, she knew exactly how toxic he had been to me and how traumatized I had been because of him. Yet, she still chose to date him. She kept telling me that he had changed and was a better person now, but I didn't believe it. She was free to have him in her life, and I didn't have a problem with that, but I also had the right to cut him out and, by association, her too. It was very simple for me, and obviously it was really hard since Julia and I were really good friends, along with being cousins. But then there was something I absolutely had to do for my own sake, and I did it. After she told me she had started dating Lewis, I stopped speaking to her much. For the past 2 years, we had been really cold to each other because once she realized I wasn't going to talk to her, even she started acting distant with me. I don't blame her for that. We would meet at events, and we would just ignore each other, whereas earlier, we had always been the cousins who stuck together and gossiped about everybody else. But now things were different, and I was honestly okay with that. Everybody has their own life and the freedom to do whatever they please, so I didn't have a problem with her. I just didn't want to speak to her, and that was it from my side. But I guess she took it personally and wanted to get back at me or something, so she took it upon herself to start talking badly about me to other people in our family and ruin my image. I didn't think that was necessary at all, because I would never do that to her. Even though we weren't getting along for the past year, she had been telling everybody that I was the reason behind my breakup with Lewis. Apparently, I didn't have any morals or ethics. She and Lewis had been spreading rumors about me, saying that I would flirt with other boys while I was with Lewis right in front of him, and that was the real reason he would get possessive and controlling. They made it sound like I was the flirt, and that's why he would get insecure, when it couldn't have been further from the truth. It was actually the other way around. He was the one who would be excessively friendly with other women and expect me to be fine with it, but he didn't like it when I would have male friends, even though I kept it completely platonic. He would constantly manipulate and gaslight me into cutting everybody out of my life. I found their strategies to ruin my reputation among my own family members very offensive, but I was honestly too busy with my own life to care about the things they were spreading. It wasn't like anybody actually believed them, so I was fine with it and didn't respond or react, since I knew that would give them exactly what they wanted, a reaction from me. I also knew that if I wanted to put an end to it, it would be really easy. All I had to do was speak to my aunt, and she would take care of it all. Even though I was no longer close with Julia, I was still pretty close with her mother, and the woman was a federal court judge, so I knew she would do the right thing. She's my dad's older sister, and everyone knew that she had a spine of steel. She would never do anything underhanded or wrong. I don't know how Julia turned out the way she did, despite being the daughter of someone like that. Literally, one conversation with her would put an end to all of this. But as a consequence, I knew Julia would also suffer quite a lot since she was financially dependent on her mother. Recently, she had started her own jewelry line, but it wasn't doing too well, from what I had heard. Anyway, I didn't want to bother her with such petty things, and I knew I was strong enough to handle it on my own, so I didn't bring it up with her. I also wanted to let this go on and see what kind of ridiculous rumors they would come up with, because either way, my other cousins were still coming up to me and telling me what she had been saying behind my back. It was just amusing and a form of entertainment for me. Then, 6 months ago, they got engaged and announced the wedding date. Soon after, my parents received an invitation, but I did not. I was fine with it. I didn't expect to be invited to the wedding either. I don't think I would want to attend even if I had been invited, after everything that's gone wrong between me and Julia, let alone me and Louis. The wedding took place 3 days ago, and it was just another day for me, so I wasn't too concerned about what was going on there. But after a certain point in time, my phone started flooding with texts from everybody in the family. They were all harping on about some speech that Louis and Julia had made at the wedding, and I was really confused. Then my parents called me and said that they needed to speak to me. They were the ones who finally told me what had happened, and I lost my temper at that point. Apparently, they had taken the opportunity at the wedding to make a horrible speech about me and spread as many nasty things as they could all at once. They wanted to turn everybody in the family against me, and I guess they might have succeeded if I hadn't had anything against them in my arsenal. Julia and Louis were clever enough not to mention me by name, but kept referring to a certain ex-girlfriend who wasn't present at the wedding, which could only have been referring to me, because who else could it have been? Anyway, they repeated all the rumors they had tried to spread about me already, like I was the flirt and apparently I was a gold digger as well, who would rely on Louis for money and expect him to pay for my whole life while I stayed home. Louis then went ahead and told everyone that the entire reason we broke up was because I was never faithful to him, and the whole thing was a mess. But I wasn't going to let that slide. When I heard what had been said, I lost it completely and gave my aunt a call. I told her what had been said, and she went absolutely ballistic. She called up Julia to give her a piece of her mind, and that was when the fun began. They went back and forth for a while, but in the end, Julia and Louis were told that they were no longer welcome in the family. It was pretty satisfying to hear that, but then things went from bad to worse. Julia was furious about the entire situation and tried to break into my house one night. She had a key to my place, which she had taken from my aunt's house, and showed up at my doorstep in a rage. I don't know what she thought she was going to do, but I had already called the cops, and when they arrived, Julia was escorted off the property. I know she has some serious anger issues and mental problems, but that was completely out of line. So, after everything that happened, I think it's safe to say that Julia and I will never be able to mend things, especially with her trying to ruin my life just to get back at me. Now, I've realized that I'm better off without them, and I don't have to deal with their toxic nonsense anymore.